What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Monday, January 3rd edition of FanDuel Tournament Plays presented by Jock Market. Use the code Awesemo, and Jock Market will match 100% of your first deposit up to $50. I'm your host today, Adam Scherer. You can find me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. We're going to take a look at 5 of the best tournament options on FanDuel. Now, keep in mind, there's almost always late breaking news in the NBA, so ownership projections and player projections are likely to change throughout the day. Be sure to tune into the deeper dive and live before lock shows on YouTube as we get closer to lock. But to take an early look at 5 of the top tournament options on FanDuel, starting at number 5, Stephen Curry is only projected for about 5% ownership with a 12% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He's a $10,200 point guard only player. The Warriors are getting healthier. You have Andrew Wiggins back, Draymond Green's returning, Jordan Poole is expected back, and in particular, the returns of Wiggins and Poole will cut into Curry's ownership a bit, but he's still easily going to be the highest usage player on this team. It's not a bad matchup for Golden State against a shorthanded Miami team that is likely to not be particularly good defensively given their current personnel. And anytime you can get someone like Curry at sub 10% ownership, it gives you massive upside in tournaments because he's always live to be the highest scorer on a slate, even if he doesn't have the best projection. So that's the case tonight at only 5% owned. Number 4, Kevin Durant, kind of similar to Curry. He's only projected for 9% ownership, has a 12% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Small forward, power forward eligible at $11,200. There's plenty of pay up options that project a bit better than Durant. He's been second to James Harden in terms of production recently when both players are active. Harden, as the year has gone on, has gotten better. It's kind of taken a little bit of production away from Durant, but at the same time, he's around the 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy in the games that he's played with James Harden this year. He's certainly capable of taking over any game and being the highest scorer on a slate. Brooklyn is facing the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. Memphis is shorthanded, so maybe not as strong defensively as they normally are. Taking shots at a low owned Durant is never a bad way to go. Number 3, Luka Doncic, only projected for 7% ownership with an 18% chance of being in the optimal lineup. This is more of the same. You're just getting a lot of ownership going some other spots on this slate, and it's projected to leave really, really good players that have some question marks or some limitations available at really low ownership. Luka was limited last night to about 31 or 32 minutes. I expect that we see 33, 34 somewhere in there tonight. Kristaps Porzingis is out for the Mavericks, and it's important to keep in mind that Luka's average production does not actually increase without Porzingis, but his usage rate does, and so that does imply he has a bit higher ceiling than normal, even if his average production is going to go down thanks to a lack of efficiency. If he shoots better than average, you can still see that production increase. So Luka is $10,000. He's point guard, shooting guard eligible. You can roster him at 4 total lineup spots, which should make it a little bit easier to get to him as well. Number 2, Giannis Antetokounmpo, getting a little bit more ownership at 17%, but still has a 21% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He's small forward and power forward eligible on FanDuel at 11,600. The positional eligibility is really useful because there's a lot of very good guard options tonight. There's a ton of really good center options. Ford's a little bit weaker, and so being able to roster Giannis at either of the 2 forward positions is pretty useful. He's facing the Detroit Pistons in Milwaukee. There's plenty of blowout risk here. Milwaukee's about a 16-point favorite, but Giannis is the best per minute fantasy producer in the NBA other than Nikola Jokic. He's likely to give you on average around 30 minutes. If this game's competitive, he can give you more. If it's an absolute blowout, he'll give you less, but also probably produce at an above average rate. But on average, you can expect around 30 minutes or so from here. At 1.7 fantasy points per minute, give or take, in a good spot against the Detroit Pistons, and relatively low ownership with a lot of positional flexibility. And then number 1, coming in as the top tournament option on FanDuel, Naz Reid's only projected for 15% ownership here because he is only center eligible, but he still has a 23% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He's only $4,600, played about 30 minutes last night in a start where we had seen him kind of limited in his first 2 games back from the COVID list, but he played 12 minutes off the bench. Then he started and played 20 minutes. Last game, he played 30. Greg Monroe was no longer in the rotation for Minnesota. Nathan Knight played about 12 minutes behind Reed. And then you got some Jaden McDaniels minutes as well. So I don't think there's any real reason to think you're not getting around 30 minutes again from Reed. He's a strong fantasy producer when he gets the minutes. He's cheap. He's going to let you get really good players into your lineup elsewhere. So he is projected to be a little bit under-owned at 15%. So to recap, the top 5 tournament options on FanDuel: Stephen Curry, number 5, Kevin Durant, number 4, Luka Doncic, number 3, Giannis Antetokounmpo, number 2, and Naz Reid, number 1.